The city will continue to be working on streamlining their permitting process. That doesn't really require any action by council. That's really just more working with the city manager's office and city staff.
So permitting meaning developers want to build new homes, and getting the permits to build those homes has historically been cumbersome. And they've, over the last couple years, they put in some site plan light and things like that to kind of streamline if you're building multiple units, right?
Yes, yeah. And the permit process has definitely gotten better than where it was, years ago. And a lot of that is the result of Mayor Watson and his team. When he came to office, they brought on a third-party consultant, McKinsey, that looked at the development review process and then made some recommendations. And those recommendations have been implemented. And from the development community, particularly home builders, apparently it appears that a lot of those changes have been good, and the process time has decreased. But we still have, high processing times, review times, and high development fees. And so really looking at what are other ways we can continue to streamline the process, potentially use third-party reviewers outside of the city to help reduce that time, because every 4 weeks of time in the review process cost a developer about $10,000 in holding costs.
Every how long?
Every 4 weeks.
Every 4 weeks costs $10,000
for one home.
And then that gets passed on to home buyers, right?
Yeah. And so, also just think about it for yourself. If you are building your home yourself, those additional holding costs for you, or that additional time, that adds up, because, you're not in your home, you're probably renting, or you maybe haven't sold your other home yet, and the market could change. And so,
and the developer's paying taxes and insurance on those. They're having to push out other subcontractors and maybe pay fees for that, right?
Yeah. So really looking, again, at that process, eventually looking at the development fees. Budget will be a big year for the city of Austin. There are some significant budget challenges. And so the city is going to have a really hard time figuring out what to do. There has been talks about having a tax rate election. So a tax rate election is required if a city goes above, or if a city raises revenue above 3.5% than last year. They will probably have to do that, or they're really considering that because of the budget position they're in.
So meaning they have to put that on the ballot at an election, and then the voters have to approve whether or not the city can increase by that much, right?
Yes. And so that will be a very tough discussion this year. And then there's also the city's in the process of building a bond for 2026. It's most people probably have heard about it. It's called the Climate Bond Initiative. There's other names out there for it. But the goal of that is to look at how the city can become more resilient to the impacts of the environment and future weather patterns. A lot of that, most likely, I'm assuming, will be focused on infrastructure, so drainage, electrical, but I'm sure parks and other types of initiatives will be added into that bond package at some point. So that will probably come back to council, I'm assuming, later in the fall for further discussions, and then adoption to be put on the ballot. Probably spring of 2026. It would be put on the November 26th ballot. So that's a big...
Just the midterms, right?
Which
the midterm ballot?
Midterm ballot, yeah. Right. So that'll be a big discussion as well, because again, it all comes back to taxes. And
there's a reason we focused on taxes. That's the conversation.
So if you put a big bond proposition on, that certainly is going to impact your property taxes moving forward.